Unmuted. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. We're back on rainy night in Allentown.
I think we have the rain tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've been waiting. It's supposed to rain today, but then it did not.
So let's see. All right, let me get everyone going here. So you're not a fan of putting your challah that's covered in an oven? You usually leave it on the counter.
It's not like I'm not a fan of it. It totally works. Whatever works best for you. But I always forget that I have the dough in the oven and preheat it and turn it on. So I'm like, you know what? No, it's fine. But a lot of people, like, they have proofing drawers or things like that, and that works well for them. It doesn't really make a difference. So yeah, so people definitely have their preferences, but I just been sitting here.
Right. Okay. Where is everyone? I don't see them. Stacy, how did your dough come out?
It came out beautifully.
It peaked. I peeked and it looked good.
If you didn't hear her, she said she peaked and it looked good.
Oh my gosh, great.
There it is.
Gorgeous.
Eyeball.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I used the dough hook on my KitchenAid, and that just, it was like magic.
So did I. So did I.
You did it, yeah.
Mute us. Can I mute?
Yeah.
So come here.
Kind of full.
All the dinner.
Too fast.
Just random dinner. It's just sitting so weird.
All right, we're having a very slow start here. Where's our Allentown crew?
The nicer it gets out, the harder it is to get people to come Zoom o'clock. It is true. Cold months, everyone's like, yes, I'll be in the kitchen and I will watch all the things. But the warmer it is, the more people like to do things.
Even rainy.
Even rainy.
Just sort of getting the fresh air. Couple more.
All right, Mandy, we'll wait one more minute to 8. It's 8:01. Let's wait till 8:02 and then let's get started. Or you want to get started? Why don't we do that?
Are you sure?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay, well then welcome back, everybody. I hope all of your dough behaved and you had a nice hour and a half. Did you have a nice hour and a half?
I did. I had a nice hour and a half. I don't know about you, but I went for a walk and had a little dinner.
Oh my gosh, samesies.
Really?
I know. What are the odds?
I figured.
All right, same rules. We're gonna put our hair up and wash our hands. Danny's already put his hair up. It's an intricate French braid.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things that has worked out well in the long run. It's probably less maintenance overall. Good way to deal with a receding hairline when I was 16.
No, it's perfect. All right, you guys. So hopefully your dough has done a little movement. Like I said, it's not going to be a big, huge poofy, but hopefully it has done something. We're going to be dividing this dough in half, and half of it we're going to learn how to stuff a challah with, and then the other half we're going to do a Jewish star shape. So I'll actually teach you how to stuff a challah first. Stuffing a challah that is what started me on my challah journey. And I stuff challahs with all sorts of crazy things. Like I do brownie batter challahs, and I do cheesecake challahs, and
Well,
I
you
do
can watch
biscuit
it.
challahs, and
Watch it.
all
We
of them.
enjoy it. I like it just the way
All
it is.
these
but-
things. All these great things are stuffed in the challah. So, but before you start stuffing salami in the challah, then the thing that you need to do is sort of do the practice. And a great way to practice stuffing, to learn how to stuff, is to use chocolate chips, because chocolate chips are a small, dry thing that you can put in, and the bigger the items and the more moisture you're dealing with, the more they become a challenge. So one day when you're stuffing your challah with caramelized onions, which is delicious, that's going to be great. But first, I think you're going to prefer to learn a little bit about rolling out your strands here. So let's go to the hand can, Mandy.
Hand can.
Fabulous. Here's our dough. You see it?
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to take it out. Now, you don't want to over flour your surface, but if you need to flour your surface, go ahead, because you don't want it to stick. But especially you don't want it to over flour, because we're going to be rolling our strands flat. And those flattened strands should be, you need sort of like the traction, right? So if it's too floury, then your strand is going to like slip all around. So that's why I'm always, so many words are hard. That's why I'm always cautioning against not flouring your surface, because of the rolling out, and also because you don't want it to taste floury. All right, so Dana's going to divide this dough in half.
Give it a quick weigh. Just
You don't
scale
have
it
to
for
wait. If you don't have a
second.
scale, that's fine, but it does sometimes help.
That's close enough. I'll leave that one for the star, because we need a little more.
Okay, so now this is half of your dough, and you're going to divide this half into 3 pieces. All right,
That's trickier.
that is a little bit trickier. I'm not going to tell you how many pieces you have to divide the next one. It's just best if we don't talk about it.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
All right. Then. So, yep. So, which was about 7.5, I'd say.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay, good. So now you have your pieces of dough, and we're going to want to turn these pieces of dough into what we call caterpillars. So to turn them into caterpillars, they actually don't have to be so long, because you're going to come in with your rolling pin and roll them a little longer and a little wider. But first, you have to get them started, and we have to turn them into little baby caterpillars this time. So I call them caterpillars because I roll my strands out with my hands like this and make a butterfly, and I call this the butterfly stretch. But you can stretch your dough out however you like. People sometimes like to do like this or that, but whatever works. Thank you. Yes, that's Annie's favorite. But you don't need to roll them so long this time, but this is just a good technique to have in mind, especially as we get close to our Jewish star challah, where we will need to roll our strands out a little longer than this. This is fine if you roll them around 8 inches or so. 8 or, yeah, that's probably enough, because you're going to go ahead and roll them wider and flatter.
Okay. Good.
Great. There you go. There's one more. Awesome.
Oh, you already did that one.
I just like sort of, I didn't really do it a lot. I just did it a little. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute to catch up with your snakes or caterpillars or ropes. Some people call them ropes also.
I call them lassos.
No, you just like to flap things.
I do.
Okay. Now, I'll talk to you about one more while you guys are dividing your dough up. We're going to be rolling these into around 4 inches wide strands. So the goal will have to have the strand be around 10 inches long and 4 inches wide. That's the goal. A mistake that people make when stuffing it, their challahs the first time, is they don't actually take the time to roll the strands out all the way. But actually it makes such a big difference, because that way you're able to get more filling in, and they'll stay sealed in their strands longer. So it's a little bit of extra work with that rolling pin, but it's nice.
Nice.
Excellent. All right, so that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be rolling each of these 3 strands into like a rectangle. All right.
You have any tips if it won't roll out?
I sure do. Thanks, Danny. If you're having some trouble with your dough, I know how we spoke earlier about having bread flour, because it's got that gluten and it makes everything squish together nice and easy. If this gluten sort of gets in the way when we're trying to roll our strands flat, so sometimes it bounces back, and you might want to do a head start with your hands, just real gentle. like that to help get it going. And then when you go in with your rolling pin, it's a little easier. But you do have to, in general, put a little bit of, I'll give a little bit of love to your strand, even like just push a little harder than you think. It's like kneading, you know, you have to actually, you don't feel like you want to be so careful with it because you don't want to hurt it, but really in actuality, you sort of have to put your all into it. How's that coming in?
But this one ended up a little longer to even it out.
All right, yes, Danny has a tendency to make his strands just be a little long. Now I see a lot of people when they roll their strands out, they want to just, it's so fun rolling your strands out. But in general, you don't want to roll your strands out too long because you only have so much dough and so much yeast that you can go. So if you roll your strands, you know, 18 inches long, it only can rise a certain amount. So you're not going to get a lot of height. That's why it's always a better idea to not roll them too long. That's why 9 to 10 inches for a regular challah is a good length. If you're using a loaf pan, then you can actually take the edge of the loaf pan while you're rolling it and actually use that as a gauge to see about how long it should be. That's one of the benefits of using a loaf pan. Also even slices. All right, fantastic.
Okay, pretty good.
I'll give you guys one more second to roll these all out. Very exciting once you figure out how to stuff a challah. Life-changing.
My
Life-changing
life
for
has
me.
changed forever.
I feel like you're mocking me.
No, no, no. I've never known how to stuff a challah if it wasn't for you.
So one of my big deals is I do the stuffed challahs, but I do them so that you can really enjoy, got a little flour right there, enjoy the taste. Like it's not just like chocolate chip challah where it's like little chocolate chips speckled around. You're gonna cut this chocolate chip challah and there's gonna be like a swirl of chocolate in the challah. So, and that's true with almost everything. When I put in, I don't know, like a brownie batter or I did a baklava challah or any of those things, they are all, you have that thick swirl, which is great. But to do that, the secret is you have to actually put a lot in it, a lot more than you think will fit it. So we're going to go down to the hand cam again, Dean.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Now, and I have found that it's at least 1/3 cup filling per flattened strand. If you can get a little more, that's great. Chocolate chips, you don't have to worry about the dough getting too weighed down. So that's good. Now, Danny is showing what a common mistake people make when they stuff their challahs, and they just sort of put like a spattering there. Now, that's great if you don't really want a lot of chocolate chips, but if you want chocolate chips, you want to put them all, just cover up the center of your strand. Danny's stuffed the whole thing down the center, but he's leaving this border all the way around. Okay, that's awesome. So the key there is that you don't see any of the dough shining through. All right, and again, so this is awesome. That rectangle all the way through. Great.
This one at the end's a little extra wide.
Because I was messing around with it. Also, maybe it just had too much, it still have its quarantine 19. It's COVID-19, a little wider. All right, awesome. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So here are 3 strands. There's around 1/3 cup. If you can fit more, that's fine. You can even go up to 1/2 cup of chocolate chips in each one if you want, but at least 1/3 cup per flattened strand all the way down the center. All right, and we'll see why in 1 second to leave this perimeter is so important. So to get this to stay in, what you have to do, you take the edges of your flattened strand, you bring them up and around your filling and seal them in. There you go, pinchy pinch, and then you do that all the way across. But that's why you see having that border so important, because that's what you're going to use to tuck in your chocolate chips.
This goes much easier with dry ingredients like chocolate chips.
That's what I was saying.
When Mandy was right, what you were saying earlier is when you get to the wet ingredients, it's a little trickier.
Yes, like
Or like sprinkles. Well, not sprinkles. What was it? That was well, no, the sprinkles, the sugar crystals can be a little tricky too. But usually anything wet, if you don't have that perimeter, it can be harder to seal.
correct. Even like cinnamon roll follows with the
That's
milk.
what it is.
You have to
Yes.
be careful with those because the margarine and or butter and cinnamon sugar.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm good. It's a great dough and it's sealing up quite
Must have
nicely.
been the humidity.
Yeah, it must have been.
My hair is very mad about it, but the dough seems
My
thrilled.
hair is furious.
I was noticing your arms are a little fluffier than normal.
That's
Right, so now here you go. You've got your 3 strands just like on your regularly scheduled challah.
sweet.
They look exactly like your what you would normally braid with, except they have a little bit of
Just a little thicker.
little thicker.
Hey,
And you can braid them just as you would a regular challah. Now, I'm going to tell you how I braid a challah, because I like to always make sure that my classes, anyone can learn. If you've never braided a challah before, I'm going to show you just so you know. And don't worry, by the end of the Jewish star challah, you're going to be a braiding professional. But really, so when you see people braid, often they braid from the top down or the bottom up, right? That's very popular. I found when I do that, though, I sort of get like a fishtail sort of thing, like a mermaid tail, because it sort of pinches at the end and they're not even. And I know that a lot of people want to have their braids be even on both sides. So to do that, I found the best way to do it is actually to braid from the center of the strand, all right? So instead of going from the top down or the bottom up, I start in the middle, all right? And it sounds like, oh my God, it's going to be so complicated. But you know what? I tell myself a little story. I'm all about telling myself stories. Sometimes it gets lonely in the kitchen and I have to have someone to talk to. But the story is that everyone wants a turn in the middle. Everybody wants a turn to be this center strand, all right? So this is 1, 2, 3. They all want to turn to be the center strand. And because they're very kind, because they're challah, they all take turns nicely. All right, so that's rule 1. Rule 2 is that because we're going to start on the bottom of the challah, that we're going to go on the bottom of the strand to take our turn, all right? So that's it. We're going to start on the bottom. Everyone gets a turn in the middle. We're going to go on the bottom of the strand to take our turn. We'll start from the right. All right, he's going to get his turn first.
I want to turn in the middle.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Barry.
There we go.
That was the first time,
Woohoo!
the center strand talk.
Yeah, I know. Well,
We've
it
done this
found
class
its
many
voice.
times, and the center
Yeah,
strand
it
just
hasn't been feeling empowered all this time. But now it's like, you know
I see.
what? I'm ready to have
good
a
for you.
voice.
Well, good for you, center strand. All right, and now the other guy's going to get his turn. So
I
the
want
left.
to turn in the
Oh,
middle.
very deep voice.
Okay.
Okay, so there we go.
Ta-da.
Brilliant. So that's one pass.
Going bottom or underneath because we're on the bottom.
Correct.
Okay, and then we do it again from the right.
Mhm.
I get a turn in the middle.
He goes on under the center strand. Now he's the center strand.
Woohoo!
Then the other side.
He gets a turn in the middle. He's like, woohoo, and he's like, oh.
I don't think that they're sad when they
They're
get their
just there. Oh, you got a turn.
Yeah,
I'm so
that's right.
happy for
Everyone's
you.
happy.
Can I have
And
a turn
my-
now? Only if you go under.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, now,
There
you
we
made this
go.
a very dramatic tale. You're
Now I want to turn.
This is-
Sure. How underneath?
All
It's
right,
like
this is why-
leapfrog.
this is why you're in charge of like doing the kids' goodnight stories,
That's
because
Well,
they're
they don't. I mean, nice. They're 12 and 15. They don't do nighttime
no,
stories.
not
If
anymore.
they ever asked me for one, I would be so down for that.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
been a
ask them.
while.
No, they don't really.
Okay.
There we go,
Maybe
and
your
then
nephews or nieces.
perhaps.
Under.
And then when you get to the bottom and you can't go back and forth anymore, you just pinch
Yep.
and tuck it under. All right, great. And now the whole bottom is done. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna do the same thing from the top. See, we have 1, 2, 3 strands, and everybody wants a turn in the middle. Only changes are that because we're working on the top of the strand, we're gonna go on top of the center braid to take our turn. And because we're working on the opposite side of the loaf, we're gonna start with the opposite strand. So we started the right here, we're gonna do the left there.
So from the left on top, over. And the other side
Mhm.
on top, over.
That's right.
And starting again from the left, over, from the right, over, 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 over. Wow, this is a nice long
I'm
challah.
telling you, you act like you're surprised.
I'm like shocked. Look how long that challah is. It's
I
like
know.
for a bar mitzvah. We're ready to go.
All right, so here you go. So there you go. So now here you go. This is your chocolate chip stuffed challah. This is where you're going to decide if you want to bake it. All right, stop. Okay. This is where you decide if you want to bake it on a sheet pan or in a loaf pan. Either one works. The benefit to a sheet pan, it's a more traditional look. Sometimes it's a little less crusty. Some people like you like softer. The benefit to a loaf pan is that every slice is going to be equally sized, and So it's like you're making like a sandwich with it or grilled cheese, French
Cheese, good.
not with chocolate chips.
No, that's true. Well, chocolate, no, maybe.
But then it's all equally.
But I think you were going for French toast.
Yes, equally sized slices. There's no coming down. And another good thing is, especially just know if you decide to stuff challahs in the future, sometimes you're going to come across a filling that you just maybe didn't roll your strand out wide enough, or you didn't have a lot of luck pinching the dough. Something like that happens. If you put it in a loaf pan, it acts like Spanx. Thank you. That's the sound it makes. It keeps everything in, so you don't have to worry about it. The only thing I'm going to tell you is that you do have to grease your pan. So use pan spray or oil or parchment paper, whatever it is, that will stick. All right.
I don't think this guy's fitting in that loaf pan, so we'll put him on the sheet.
Yes. Well, actually, we can't do that right now because we need him for the. Please put on the camera. We need him for the Jewish star.
Okay.
Now we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to just cover it with a towel, and it's going to sit for 20 to 30 minutes. That's the second rise. All right. Now, if you are one of the people that used the instant, the quick rise, or the rapid rise yeast, just go ahead and preheat your oven now. Everyone should preheat their oven now. It's totally fine. 350 degrees. And as soon as your oven is preheated, you go ahead and stick it in. You might want to put an egg wash on it if you want, or oil or something. We'll do the egg wash portion last though.
So that was the second rise you were saying to skip if you have the rapid rise.
Correct.
But if you have the instant or the active dry, second rise, 20 minutes. Yes?
If you don't.
If you have one of those other two,
The instant or the active dry.
Active
Correct.
dry, you're doing the second rise now.
Yes, everyone's gonna, it's covered with a towel, and it's just sitting there on the counter for 20 to 30 minutes. So preheat your oven now. Now there are a lot of different ways. All right. So 350 is what you want your oven to be at. Go ahead and turn that on now, no matter what. That's right, Danny. Chip chop.
I was like, what are you waiting for?
You should do the bottom one, too.
Instruction for me. Got it.
I like being able to like boss them around the kitchen. It's like my special time.
Hey.
I'm gonna start doing laundry classes just so I can. I'll have a chance.
Laundrylicious.
Laundrylicious. Oh, that sounds fun. I join that. All right.
I'm gonna
Okay.
braid our clothing.
Are there any questions about the chocolate chip challah? Okay. Well, then we're ready to move on to the Jewish star. Now, the Jewish star is great. It's all you have to know how to do is a braid. So that's great news. The less great news is that you're going to have to do 6 braids to do the Jewish star challah, because a lot of people I see when they make letters or numbers, they just make the strand long and then bend it and then just hope for it. But what happens is if you don't do separate challahs, it all rounds out and you're going to miss your points. So right, pointy is important, especially in letters, numbers, but especially in a Jewish star. You need those points, and that's why when you have 2 separate challahs, when they bake, they'll bake at a point. So that'll be nice. But that does mean that you're going to have to divide this dough into, what's 3 times 6, Nanny?
18.
18 pieces.
And this is where that scale might come in handy.
If you have it,
one.
if not, just try and make your pieces as equal as you can. All right, here we go.
Okay, we're gonna hand cam it up.
And this is where we get to discuss how Danny and I have very different philosophies in dividing dough.
Thank you. Look at that, perfect, 12, 12. I just like to keep cutting them in half and measuring it each time. Whereas Mandy will just go 18.
Yeah.
And
And then
I'm just like, no, I'm gonna cut them in half
it's
each time.
probably similar.
It's in the end, it's probably faster your way.
No, it depends.
And there was the time where I ended up with 7.
I
don't know
We
what-
were doing an 8 strand. Was it 8 strand or 6
I think
strand?
it was a 6 strand, and I ended up with 7 strands. And you're like, what did you do? And we're trying to play it off like nothing's wrong. We're like, oh no.
So there was definitely things went awry, but it was okay in the end. You just add a little bit of dough to everything.
There's always a way to fix it. All right, so we need so that's 4.
And we're gonna be here a while.
I'm
No, no, don't you take your time, because everyone's dividing with you. There's no
Yes.
rush.
3, 3.
But the question is, if you're dividing these each in half, you're
No, I
gonna
know.
need a 5.
No, I know. I'm at what's
You're gonna
that?
need like an odd one. I guess you would have like the extra
Well, I'm at 4 now, and eventually I need, how many do I need?
18.
18. So I need to get 9 and 9.
Yes, just 9.
I've already messed it up.
Oops, okay. You're
It's
gonna be fine.
I'll be all right. I'll be all right.
12.
Hmm?
Fine, I'll do it in half.
This is why your way is better.
Well, it's just less math. It's not necessarily better, just the way our brains work is different.
And I need 2 more, so I'm just gonna come around, take little taps at everybody. Hmm?
Mandy, can you tell us again how many balls that we need on this?
18. High. Which is ironic, isn't it, for the Jewish star? Look at
I'd
that.
say it's ironic. It is
Maybe that's
fortuitous.
fortuitous,
appropriate.
but most when they created the Jewish star, it wasn't designed to be made out of challah.
That's true. See what I'm doing there? Sorry, this would have been much easier if I had just cut it up originally. Good. All right, and they're all 2.5.
Let's go ahead and just make sure, because I'm not going to name names, but there was a time that we had the wrong number.
Everyone needs a minute anyway to catch up.
And mustard. Okay, we'll wait till they show. Okay.
Hmm.
The boring part of the class.
Oh, it's just, measure twice, cut once, right?
Well, we're cutting many times.
18. Okay, now how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Great, so a little extra. Okay,
Throw the dough
there we
around.
go.
Right, so you can divide these into 6 sections of 3. Right, and then when you're ready with your 18 dough pieces, the other thing I'm going to go ahead and tell you is prepare your cookie sheet, your parchment lined cookie sheet, because actually after you do the first braid, we're going to be placing all the braids directly on the cookie sheet and forming it on there. So it's the worst when you form it on your countertop and then you have to move it. You actually can't do that. So we're going to make sure that after our first strand, we make sure that that's all set. All right. Now the big difference between this one and the other is that last time I was telling you to roll them shorter, but this time you go ahead and roll it a little bit longer.
Okay, should we bring the pan now or not yet?
No, let's do the first of the many.
Okay.
All right.
So I've got my first 3.
Now, if you will give me 1 more minute if you're still cutting right now. All right, but then what we're going to be doing is, well, mostly Danny, is he's going to be rolling this into long. We need this to be longer, right? Because we're going to be creating a star shape from it. So you need that length. You can't just have little tiny nubbins. So that's what I'm going to say. If you can get between like around, I feel like if you can get like between 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches, probably even 9 would be great.
Okay.
That's great. See, that's awesome. How long you can get it? About 9 inches.
Thereabouts.
That's a good goal to have. 9-inch snake or caterpillar. Your butterflies are doing awesome.
Sweet.
I don't see a lot of butterflies around here. I'm not sure what a butterfly has.
We had some last summer, remember? When we
Oh yeah, we spent all that
Backyard.
time outside. Okay. So do you want to roll them all to snakes or do you want to braid as you
Well,
go?
we can braid as we go, I
Okay.
think. It'd be easier to organize.
All right. So now you have your strands and you're just going to turn this into a regular braid.
So just like before, right?
Mhm.
Everyone gets a turn in the middle. From the right going under,
Mhm.
going under, going under, 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 under. Woohoo!
All right. Look
We're
at
all
that.
happy.
They are all happy.
Okay, let me keep it a little tug so it stays nice and thin. Over, 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 over.
So we'll go ahead and put that there for right now. And we'll braid all of them, I think is the fastest way to do it, is we'll just make all of these into little challahs.
Okay. Do you remember your first Jewish star challah?
I did.
What was it for?
It was for a woman in Ohio. She was
Mhm.
looking for something unique for her niece, or maybe it's her friend's daughter's bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
So she couldn't decide if she wanted to do like the letter N or things that were like, what she wanted to do. Like, should it be like her age? Should she go red? But then she decided a Jewish star would be great. So then we did it, and actually was. Sometimes I get asked to do shaped challahs, and I'm like, okay, I can try and do it, and I have like a vision. But sometimes I don't. But the Jewish star, I feel like that was one of that we sort of had like a vision, and it totally came together exactly how we thought it would. I have to do this hedgehog challah.
I was going to say, what was the most unusual one you've ever done? And I'm thinking it's probably the one that you've got
That I
on
have to
order
do.
right now, which is a hedgehog.
Which I'm not
But-
sure. I'm honest right now. I don't know how to do it. I will figure it out. It will involve scissors and little chocolate chip eyes.
You've also done logos for people's bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, where they came up with custom logos.
Yeah, that's almost
That's-
easier than, because then you're like, it's just letters and numbers.
Hmm.
But when you're trying an animal, these hedgehogs are cute. I don't know what to do. It's like, tiger. A
Leopard.
giraffe, I could probably figure out.
You're going to do a one for Aiden for our son's bar mitzvah?
Yes, I'm going to do. I was thinking about writing
What's
his.
that?
These are great, Danny.
Doing
You're
okay?
doing magnificent.
Okay. Next three.
Mhm.
I also like when you do New Year's Eve challahs.
Yeah.
Because you do the 4 giant challahs, each in a different flavor,
All new flavors.
each
And
number.
It's always so fun because we have the friends over, but this year we had to have teeny tiny little baby numbers.
That was just Didn't we set one on fire?
We did. We set the entire
Oh,
thing
we
on
set
fire.
2020 on
We
fire.
made-
That's what it was.
We made we made 4 challahs. We made 2020 and we did 2021, and we set 2020 on fire. We set a lot of things on fire last year. We set, we made a menorah that you like lit in the.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah. The flaming challah. Flaming challah.
We always hit flaming Maccabee shots.
Yes.
That's what we put on fire. And
It's like alcohol that we
grain
lit.
alcohol. And a little bit of like blue curacao. It was super fun. So we had to do to entertain ourselves. We're lucky the house is still standing. All right, you guys. How's it going out there? All right, we're about halfway done. Oh, our oven's
It's
preheated.
already preheated. That is much faster than it used to be. Went through a period of broken ovens, which was very stressful. Now they're all working again.
Don't jinx it. Okay. Awesome. How many I'm doing? I'm just rolling. Things.
Rolling, rolling, rolling.
Oh yeah, Sandy has a soundtrack for every action, just about.
Well, you have sound effects. I
I
have a
do.
soundtrack, and we have Challah exercises.
That's
so
right. We have a whole series of challah things that we can do.
If you ever get commissioned to do a TV show or Mandylicious the movie, we're like ready to go. Sound
I would
effects,
definitely-
soundtrack. There's a Challah, there's interactive portion,
Mandy was just
sensory, smells and taste. Oh my gosh.
like
It'll be a
the full
blockbuster.
experience.
Skip the cookbook. Let's just do a movie.
That's right. Probably be easier.
Yeah, it might be. Under. Sure, I'm getting my braiding practice in.
You really are. You're doing a great job. Don't you remember that everyone's a turn in the middle? It's much easier. Danny used to braid all of my challahs for me when I started because I had no idea how to braid a challah. And Danny did it. He was very kind with them. Eventually, I don't remember when because you did it
I
from
think
the
it's
top down.
incredible that there was ever a time that you didn't know how to braid,
It was incredible.
considering.
There's always a time you don't know how to do something. When you do it.
4. Okay. 2 more to go.
We can do this.
Yes, we can.
It's gonna all be worth it in the end. Is this longer or shorter than the dough done? Yesterday's class was rainbow class, and we had to dye the dough. And the way that you completely saturate your dough with color involves a lot of kneading. Like anytime you see it on TV, it's always on a, like a, not TV, but like on videos, it's always looks very like quick that it comes together, but that's not necessarily how it works in real life. So we do the class to show people how to do it, but part of the class is we want you to be doing it with us. It's so like, it's nice to be that way. You can ask questions. And as they come along or whatever, but the dough dyeing portion is
It took a long
a long
time.
time, faster than the last time.
Yes. But then the funny thing is we're like, it's not real when you see, because it's so fast, but then today you did a time lapse of it. It was just that fast.
Well, it was a time lapse.
Yes, that was cool.
I do enjoy that. All right, here we go.
But yes, we did do all that dyeing. I would say I prefer this because the dyeing is
Very tedious.
can be tedious. I don't want to
This
say
part of your hand,
frustrating,
whatever
but
this part is, that's what it hurts. You know,
murdery, kind of a feeling towards the end. I think next time let's do rainbow, but with only 3 colors.
It's not a rainbow.
And we'll do like team colors. Do like Patriots, blue, silver, and red, or maize and blue for Michigan.
Amazing blue column. I put actual maize in it.
Mhm.
Be so funny to unicorn.
No, that would be funny. Ooh, interesting.
One
Be a
day,
very literal challah.
someone from the University of Michigan will be like, "Oh, you came here, make us a challah." And I will. I'll be like, finally. All right.
In fact, we lived in Pennsylvania for 3 years.
We did.
We lived
Was
in
it
the
3
yard.
years?
2.5.
2.5.
It was supposed to be 3. Ended up 2.5. Well, it was supposed to be longer than that, but ended up moving up here to Sharon sooner than expected. But yes, we lived in Yardley. It was lovely.
All right.
Do.
Awesome. Good. That. You did it, Danny.
I did it.
Now, the good news is that once you've done it, it comes together really fast. So the braiding is the long part.
Yes.
Actually, what do you think? The braiding or the rolling or the cutting?
And I know they're recording this, so you'll probably be able to watch it again later if you don't quite get it the first try. But once you see it, it's fairly straightforward.
Ta-da! So we have our parchment lined cookie sheet. And what we're going to do is it's also like a pattern. You go ahead,
Yeah,
Danny.
I will. And don't worry if you're not caught up. You can just sort of watch because
We'll
it's going to be.
explain it one more time.
It's gonna make sense once you see it. So the only thing that we do that's a little different is you might just think, well, I'll just make 3 triangles. Is it right if I explain
Yes,
it?
yes, you go for it.
You could just do 3 triangles. And this is what Mandy was saying, where this way you have nice sharp points. And then you could just do a triangle on top. But I always like the interwoven look to give it some dimensionality. So what I do is I go over
You start
one.
with your 3 on the bottom.
And I go under the next one. Then I take this one, and that one went under. So this one's going to go over that one and under here. And then this one, because that went under, will go over this one and under this one. So it's just alternating under, over until you're around. And then you have to do a little bit of hokey pokey to get everything.
Don't do it too
even.
tight.
I'm not going to do it too tight because I'll redo it.
But look at that. It looks gorgeous. Yay.
A little, wonky, but we'll get that fixed up on the next time. Yeah, there we go.
That's gorgeous, Danny.
So you have that interwoven dimensionality effect, and it makes
Those are lots of words.
I know. So I'll undo it, and we'll redo it one more time. For those who might have missed it, or still catching up, or want to see it one more time, or they just like the demonstration.
You do a very nice demonstration.
All right, so we're going to start with our 3 pieces
In a triangle.
in a triangular shape.
Triangular shape.
And then we're going to go over the first one, under the second one.
Each corner, there's one over and one under.
Yeah.
So will you guys just slow down for 1 minute so everyone could get that again?
Yep. Okay. Okay.
Well, we'll just wait then, just 1 more minute.
No, just go, you do it, but just do it a little slower for everyone.
You got it. You got it. So we're going to set up our triangle in the middle, kind of loosey-goosey. Okay. Then we're going to take the next one, and we're going to go over the first arm, the first part of the triangle, and we're going to go under the other one.
So we'll just stop there. All right. So here we go. This is the top point. Do you see how this braid has gone over one point and then under the other point? You got it? How we doing? So far, so good?
Okay. Then we're going to take the next one, and that went over under. This one is going to go again over and under.
Okay, do you see that? Let's stop there for a moment. All right, so this one's gone over, gone under, and then he's gone over, and now we're working on the next point down. So because we ended on an under, we're going to do this part of the braid is going to go over and then under. At each point, one half of the braid goes over and one goes under. It's just a weave.
And then the last one, same thing. We're going to go over and then under and have those two kiss. And I'm just going to even it out a little bit so we have somewhat even triangles.
Does anyone need us to go through it again? Nope.
Now, do we do a little pinch on each corner?
Yeah, so now the next part is you want to make sure to form your corners, right? So you're just going to make sure that you just, that's all. It's just literally you're just pinching them together and squishing it, which is kind of fun. Right? So now the other thing to keep in mind, and this is optional, but the way that dough works is that it sort of rises, right? So anytime that you have something where there is a lot of points, right? Like this, you have free space. Now it's up to you. If you bake it like this, it's possible that your strands will melt together and you'll have just solid points, which is totally fine and cool. If you want to try and keep these spaces empty, just for aesthetic purposes, one way to do that is just to take some tin foil and ball it up. And where's the spray? Here you go. And I like to just put a little Pam spray on it, or oil or whatever, so it doesn't, the dough doesn't stick to it. All right, and you'll put those little tiny balls of foil in all of those pieces.
And just crumple it up. Little spritzy spray. Stick it in the hole. Crumple up the ball. Little spritzy spray. Stick it in the hole. But I'm not really like balling it up too tight or anything. It's just enough. The bread, as dough, isn't going to push too hard on it, so it doesn't have to be like a tight ball or anything. Okay. A little trick of the trade. It's also good if you're making letters like the letter A or R, number 8. If that ends up with a small hole, it's a good way to.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you end up with the smaller holes, it's a good way to keep up.
Especially if you want to use less dough. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like if you use a lot of dough, then you have a lot of space. But if
This
you want
way
to
your
use just one
shape is
dough,
preserved.
that's right. Okay. So here we go. Now this is also going to rise. You do a little bit shorter rises on the shaped dough because in general this dough has already sat out for some time. So I just do like instead of a 20 to 30 minute, I do a 15 or 20 minute second rise for this guy. All right. Now in terms of egg wash, you can egg wash it now and then again before you put it in the oven. You can just egg wash it before you put it in the oven. Some people egg wash it before they put it in the oven and then in the middle of baking. There's a lot of ways people egg wash. Personally, I just egg wash it before I put it in the oven. But for our explaining purposes on egg wash now, I'm going to egg wash this Jewish star. All right. So for egg wash, a lot of people, again, have very passionate feelings about egg wash. The first thing to keep in mind is the egg yolk is what's giving your dough your color to your dough, right? It's the egg yolk. It's not the egg white at all. So when you're using just the egg yolk, it's a lot of color that's going to be on your dough. So the egg yolk provides the most beautiful shine just using the egg yolk, but you're going to have to cut it with some water, 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of water or so, because otherwise your challah will look like it's done baked because it's going to be so golden brown, but really the yolk has cooked faster than the dough underneath.
That was a great tip.
That's why you have to make sure that it's mixed up, the yolk and the water. Give it a good mix because if you don't mix it up, you'll even see streaks. All right. Or if you wanted to just use the whole egg, your egg white will act as your water. It's a little less shiny, but it's faster. So that's up to you what you want to do. Tonight, Danny's getting a break, so he's going to just do the whole egg.
I'm a convenience guy, so I'll give up a little bit of shine in exchange for a little bit of efficiency.
All right, you've been whisking it really well. I do get this question often, and it's 9 times out of 10, it's just because you need to whisk it more. It's the streakiness. Yeah. You're very good at whisking.
Thank you. If I only use the yolk with water, I had that egg white plus the other egg whites from the recipe, what could I do with all of those egg whites?
So well, you have a lot of, well, you can freeze egg whites, just so you know. Make meringue. A lot of people save them. They make the challah dough on like Thursday or Friday, and then they make an omelet on Sunday morning.
To go with your challah French toast.
When you make more eggs. All right, so here we go. So I'm gonna egg wash, and then it's just one more little tip, because oftentimes this is a little smaller to see it on, but people say that their egg wash pools in these little cracks anytime you make a challah. You have all these cute little wedges. So to avoid any pooled egg wash, I always recommend egg washing your challah from the outside in. All right, so by the time you get to the center where the braid is, most of your egg wash has been wiped off, and it's not as likely that you'll have any pooling. So I don't think it's a big deal if it happens, but I always like to make sure that people err on the side of happiness. So I just want people to be happy at the end of their results. Although honestly, you just need a challah, and now you made a challah that looks like a Jewish star, so that's even cooler. All right, so as Danny's finishing this up, are there any other questions?
There was a question about how you would make a challah round.
So for making a challah round, you would, well, there's millions of ways to do it, but if you want to do a 3-stranded way, just like we did tonight, you would roll your strands even longer, as long as you could, even like, 15 inches long, 15, 16 inches long. Braid a long, skinny braid, and then just twist it. Take it from the end and twirl it up. And
I call it a flat or a horizontal spiral.
That's so confusing.
Well, just because it's like you're spiraling it, but in a like keeping it flat to the surface.
Yes. So that is what you're doing. So then you get to you'll spiral it up, and then when you get to the end, when you reach back to your dough, you just tuck that little part under. On my Instagram, I have videos of how it's done. In fact, I have lots of tutorials on my Instagram, which I recommend checking out. All right, so then let's talk about cook times. So the Jewish star will cook a little less. It'll probably take around 30 minutes, give or take, depending on your oven. Your stuffed challah is going to be usually around 10 minutes longer. All right, so than an unstuffed. So this is, my stuffed challahs usually take between like 40 and 44 minutes. So you want to have that in your brain when you're looking. And sometimes it cooks faster. Everyone's ovens are different. And if you're cooking something with it, but keep in mind that your Jewish star challah will cook faster than your chocolate chip challah. Okay,
It's thinner.
It's strands in general, and it's not stuffed.
Yeah, fair.
Can you put both challahs together in one oven, or would you suggest separating the challahs, one in each oven?
If you have 2 ovens, then go ahead and put them in 2 separate ovens, just because it's nice to not have to open your oven mid-bake, which you would have to do because your Jewish star challah is going to cook in less time. So if you only have 1 oven, don't worry about it. They can totally time. Just be prepared to take it out a little sooner. All right. And
Would you do them side by side or over under?
I would do, if you have room to do side by side, I would do that, just because I don't like cooking things on the bottom.
Slide it off. The earlier one that's finished.
Well, it's yes, they could put their 2 pans next to each other too.
There you go. Even bit smarter.
And then what you look to check to see what it's done is the top center of your challah. I call it the thready belly, because the center is what cooks last. It cooks on the outside and then in. And then that in part usually is a little stretch. And once the center looks baked and not doughy, that's how you know it's done. All right. Now we have a baked Jewish star challah just for you. Ta-da! Super cool. It's nice, Danny.
It's beautiful. I don't think
Let me take a picture. Hang on.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you a picture, if you don't mind, about when you rise the challah. There's a lot of different discussion whether when you do the second rise, do you cover it with saran? Do you leave it uncovered? What do you suggest?
For the second rise, I do it just like I do the first rise. I just cover it in a towel and I sit it on my countertop for 20 to 30 minutes. What other questions can I answer?
Questions?
Can I just ask a question
Sure.
in the chat? Okay, I'm kind of confused about like whether or not my yeast is the Insta rise or not. If I do a second rise and I had like yeast that didn't need that, am I gonna ruin the challah?
Wait,
Does
I'm
it
sorry.
matter if you do the second rise, even if you like have the yeast that doesn't need the second rise, am I ruining it? Does it matter?
So that's the issue. You're not ruining it. The reason I suggest not doing a second rise is because the rapid rise yeast, the quick rise yeast, works twice as fast as regular yeast. So the issue would be not that it wouldn't work, it just might rise a little too much. It would be an over rise. So you might lose some of the shape. But that's not even every time.
Okay, so if that's it, okay, good, thank you.
Mandy, is that when you see a braid that pulls apart very often on a, like, that's an overrise?
No, that's 0% an overrise. I get that question a lot. And to me, I didn't even know that was an issue because to me, that's how a lot of challahs just look like that. And then so when people started being like, oh my gosh, this isn't what I expected, I realized that people have this expectation that their challahs are going to look like the challahs that they get from a bakery or something like that, because those challahs are just make the braid and they stay in the braid and then they don't move. Like they get a little bigger, but they don't move. All right. So I did all this research because like I said, I just want people to be happy. And when I did all this research, I found about 1 million different answers. Some people said that your dough wasn't proofed long enough. Some people said that you had to proof it longer, that it was that you cooked it for too long. You cooked it, literally every possible answer. And then the opposite of that answer was there. So then I was like, okay, let's think about this. What doughs behave and what doughs are a little bit like they might happen. It's the doughs that are like mine, that are sweeter or like, saltier, are going to be, or more rich. Those are going to be more cake-like. They're not going to just be sitting there. Like a pretzel dough. Pretzel dough is like not very sweet, not very salty. It just sort of stays where it's put. So if you find a recipe that has less salt and less sugar, you can braid it 1 million ways and it will most likely stay put, all right? If you see dough that sometimes pulls apart, that in general, that's just the nature of the dough, that there's nothing wrong with it. The bigger issue would be if your strands melted together entirely, if you didn't see the braid. If you can still see the bumps of your braid, and then it's not usually an overrise. The overrise turns your dough almost into a loaf versus a braid. So that's my personal opinion on that. I could be wrong, but I'm also always about it tasting good. So, but I do think that the stretchy thing is not something I would worry about. What else?
Can I ask another yeast question?
All right,
Yeah. See,
So
yeast
if
is a big thing.
I know. So the one you should. So I don't have to let it rise again. Like I can just go put it in the oven then. Correct?
No.
No, I have
Instant yeast, you have the right yeast. That's the
Okay.
perfect yeast. It does a second rise perfectly. If you have quick rise or rapid rise yeast, which are forms of instant yeast, but not the instant yeast that you have. It's those, the quick rise and rapid rise yeasts are treated. They're treated even more than that. So they're designed for quick breads and fast breads. If you want your bread in an hour, that's what you want. But for this, because there's a little bit longer of a rise, and it's just the design of the nature of the challah, we don't need to have such a quick rise. We don't need to worry about that. It's more important that we have the shape and the texture proper. So that's
So the one she has, do the second rise.
exactly perfect. You do exactly what the directions said because you have the perfect yeast, not because also that's the yeast I use. So it is perfect. But also bread machine yeast and instant yeast are the exact same thing. So you can use those measure for measure. So my preferred yeasts are instant or bread machine, active dry, and then the quick rise or rapid rise.
In order of preference.
In order
Got
of
it.
preference. But they all will work and they will all be fine. And actually people have all
And
had
in the
lots
end,
of
it's all delicious challah. It's gonna taste great.
You'll be fine. And if you have any questions, just ask me because I do like to help people. Fair.
Have you seen a difference in different bread flours? Are you do you use King Arthur solely or use different flours?
I've tried many different bread flours at this point. I have the most luck with King Arthur because brands of yeasts I find to be interchangeable. Like I've used all sorts of brands of yeast and they all sort of work pretty much the same, especially when you're dealing with instant yeast. But bread flour, they do matter. Quality does matter because that's how finely how they cut the grains or whatever it is that makes that high gluten. So if there's not a lot of gluten, the high gluten or the high protein content, then you're going to notice that you need to add more. So oftentimes, one time I just did a class, it was just one-on-one, me and a person, I saw her put all the same things in, but she had, I think it was during the bread shortage time, flour shortage time. So I think she was able to find like organic store brand bread, like bread flour, and it was not good. She had to add, it was almost like she might as well just used all purpose. And that's just how each brand is so different. So when I say King Arthur, I think that that's one of a better brand to use. But there's other good brands to use out there. But King Arthur's my favorite.
Does anyone else have any questions? We thank you for sharing your time with us, and super exciting. I thought the Jewish Star is definitely so unique, and the stuffed challah, but the Jewish Star, and especially the trick with, I did it with the foil, really is nice that you could keep the openings.
Mhm.
So I know everyone will, hopefully they'll send me pictures and we'll see, but I know everyone learns so much, because even the stuffed challah was so interesting how you stuffed it. It wasn't just a smattering, like you said, Danny first put on a few chips and you said, lay them on, right?
Yeah,
You know?
that's right. That's you gotta put all the chocolate in. It's very important.
Exactly. So that's great. So if anyone has any questions, again, 350. And you, Mandy, you use a regular bake oven, or do you do convection?
You can use convection. Either one. I prefer using convection for my stuffed challahs, because the way that convection works is like a slower from the inside out. And what happens when you use convection for an unstuffed challah is that you'll lose your braid, because it's a slow, and then your yeast is still rising. So when you have direct heat, you keep those braids more, because that part cooks faster versus like. So if you have stuffed, then you have a little bit more flexibility, and sometimes it works better like that way. But in general, I prefer using just standard baking for that. But just be sure, if you are using a convection oven, to make sure that you know the directions, because each brand of oven is different. And I don't know, like, I think they tell you on like only on your manufacturer's directions that because there's it's a 25 difference or 50-degree difference in your convection temperature to your non-convection. So it's when you're baking something at 400 degrees convection, it's like 450 degrees standard oven. So if you have to, so my oven downstairs, it automatically adjusts it. So if I was going to do a convection, then I would be, 375, whatever it is, the difference in the temperature, it takes into account. For my oven up here, I have to adjust it accordingly. So it's like 400 versus 350, or 375 versus 350. Every oven has different amounts. So just check that out, because you need it.
Great. Well, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I think everyone's good. Thank you guys so much for sharing your night with us and teaching us. It was really, really, really fun, and just so nice and creative. And I can't wait to see everyone's challahs in Allentown.
Yeah,
So-
on Instagram, be sure to tag me in them, so I'll share them on my story, because I love sharing people's challahs, because you guys are
Yeah,
awesome.
really nice. So thank you again, and we look forward. I'll send you pictures, and if you guys are on Instagram, look up Mandylicious, and we really appreciate you spending the evening with us.
Okay, have a great night.
All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.